Okay, Algebra 2. So, what we are going to be doing is working with complex numbers. So, complex number is written in the form a plus bi. So, these are still dealing with imaginary numbers. A is representing your real number. The bi represents the imaginary part. So, in example 1, we just need to identify the parts. So, in part A, we have 9 plus 5i. So the real is 9, the imaginary is 5i. We have negative 7i. Technically, here there's nothing added or subtracted to the imaginary part. So our real part is just 0, and then imaginary is negative 7i. Moving on to example 2, we're going to add and subtract complex numbers. With that, pretty much all we're going to do is add like terms. So they put them in parentheses. And if you want, you can rewrite them out of the parentheses. You can say negative 7 plus 2i plus 5 minus 11i. So just combining like terms, we have negative 7 and 5. So negative 7 plus 5 is negative 2. And 2i minus 11i is minus 9i. Excuse me. In part B, the only thing I want to point out to you is you have that minus sign. So remember, just like the distributive property, you have to distribute that into both things inside the parentheses. So we're going to have 18 plus 27i minus 2 minus 3i. Again, combining like terms, 18 minus 2 gives me 16. 27i minus 3i is going to give me that plus 24i. So remember the way I write this, it's following the a plus bi formula. So we have our a plus or minus our bi, a plus or minus the bi. So 16 plus 24i in part B of example 2. Lastly, in example 3, we're going to be multiplying complex numbers. So when we multiply, we want to do the FOIL method. So going back to Algebra 1, FOIL, F stands for first, O stands for outer, I stands for inner, and L stands for last. So first, outer, inner, last. So we're going to go ahead and do this in different colors. So my first terms, I got the 4 and the 6. So I'm going to multiply 4 and 6 together, and that's going to give me 24. My outer terms are my two terms on the outside. So I have the 4 and I have this negative 2i. So I'm going to multiply them together. 4 times a negative 2i is a minus 8i. Inner are the two inner terms. So you have the 9i and the 6. 9i times 6 is going to give me 54i. And last is going to be your two last terms. So it's going to be the 9i, and we're going to go to the 2i. So 9i times a negative 2i is negative 18i squared. So now, remember from last section, from section 1, that I squared is technically equal to -1. So remember, I squared equals -1. So I squared equals -1. We're multiplying that by -18. So we're going to technically have a positive 18 here at the end. When we combined our like terms here in the middle, 54 minus 8 is going to give me a 46i. And then we have that 24 that we're just going to drag down. So then we have one more set of like terms. We have the 24 and the 18. And that's going to give me 42. So that's my real part, is the 42. And then that 46i is my imaginary part. So that is my final answer right there. So when we're multiplying, you want to do the FOIL method, unless you have just a constant on the outside of the parentheses, and it's just going to be the distributive property. So looking at part B, we have -3 plus 2i times the quantity of 7 plus 4i. And you'll hear me say that. This is the quantity of -3 plus 12i, so it's technically a binomial, times the quantity of 7 plus 4i. That is the technical correct math terms for that. I will say that a lot during class. So again, I'm going to take my first, -3 times 7 is -21. I'm going to take my outer, -3 times 4i, which would be minus 12i. I'm going to do my inner, 12i times 7 is going to be a plus an 84i. And then my last be 12i times 4i, which would be 48i squared. So again, that I squared is equal to -1. So I'm going to drop that down. I'm going to multiply it by 48. And I'm going to end up with a -48 on the end. Combining my like terms in the middle, 84 minus 12 is 72. So I'll have a 72i. And then I'm going to drop down that 21, -21. Combining like terms one more time. -21 minus 48 is -69 plus 72i. So there is your final answer there. Biggest thing to remember with these, FOIL method, make sure you multiply. Combine your i's, think of them as x's. And then you have to remember that that I squared equals -1. Your homework is page 96, 2 through 18 even.